I started like right after I turned 40. And so I think I was really just starting to think about my health, my fitness. And while I didn't feel like I was in poor health, I thought that I could do better. And I wanted to really make a significant change before older things, kind of progressed a little too far and I think like, when you're talking about it being a diet, like I think there's always things like, oh, like I'm going to change what I eat. I'm going to go on a diet so that I can lose weight. And like every time I got on the scale, it just held solid. It was like, I lost a lot of fat on my belly, like around like my love handles and, my, even like around my thighs and stuff like that. So like everything just kind of like the weight just like redistributed and kind of, my body changed in such visible ways. I was like, okay, I guess like that number.
Hey everyone, welcome to the OX100 podcast. Today I'm meeting with Greg and we're doing a series here where it's OX100 and today it's Greg. And we have been working together pretty much for about a year or more on Greg's goals and stuff. But Greg was a part of the gym for how long before you started the OX100, would you say?
It was about a year.
Okay. So you've been at Oxford for about 2 years.
A little longer, yeah, about 2.5 years.
A little longer than 2 years. And, it's coming to class every day, training. How consistent were you before we started OX100?
I would say in like the 2 months leading up to it, I was probably going 4 to 5 times a week. But
yeah,
before that, maybe at best 3 times a week, 2 or 3 times a week.
So 2 or 3 times a week for about a year. And seeing results, right? Getting a little bit fitter, getting a little bit stronger.
Definitely.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but I was noticing that there were like a lot of the other people at the gym were progressing a lot faster than I was.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that they had just started the OX100 and I was like, oh, clearly that makes something different. Cause like for a while I'd been kind of keeping pace with them and then they were just like blowing past me.
Yeah.
After a couple of months.
Right? And so you signed up to the OX100. And yeah, we started working together and started changing your nutrition, which is the key to it all.
Yeah, in a big way.
And then setting goals and just setting targets to be a little bit more consistent overall. So when you were first thinking about that, like you said, like you saw people progressing really fast. You were, you came in, you worked hard, you trained hard, you were getting a little bit fitter, right, from when you first started.
Yeah.
But what was the main reason that you kind of wanted a little bit more? Where did that come from?
I started like right after I turned 40. And so I think I was really just starting to think about, my health, my fitness. And while I didn't feel like I was in poor health, I thought that I could do better. And I wanted to really make a significant change before I got, older or things, kind of progressed a little too far where it wasn't going to be as easy to get back to, where I wanted to be. And so like before things kind of got out of hand or, I just didn't want to run the risk. And I could just, I felt like I was close to being able to like really excel in the workouts. But needed like a little bit of an extra nudge to actually get there. And I couldn't figure out like how to do it. How to do it on my own. I was kind of like, well, I come here every day. I like push myself in the workouts and it's like, I'm getting a little better, but I wasn't noticing like really the changes that I was hoping to see for that kind of effort. And I couldn't figure out what was that X factor that was kind of missing for me. And it seemed like people were getting really great results being in the program. So that's kind of like what I thought. I was like, look, let's give that a shot. It's 3 months. If it doesn't work, no big deal.
Yeah, I saw something interesting the other day that said the most important years on your health and fitness journey are from 36 to 45, like that 10-year window where, your body starts changing, your things start happening, but you're also in a point where you're either really busy career-wise or kid-wise, or you've got a lot going on that is taking away time from like in your early 30s or your late 20s where you don't realize how much time you have to go work out or, you know what I mean? And so that window there from 30, that 10-year window or 9-year window there is so crucial because it starts small, right? It starts with like a couple of pounds that you add on a year. But I talk about it all the time. Like, if that's 3 pounds a year, that's 30 pounds. If
Yeah.
that's 5 pounds a year, it's 50. You know what I mean? Like, if it, and 5 pounds a year is not very much, right? So, in that little window, if you just add on a few pounds a year, you're at a place where at 45, 46, it might be really hard to get back in shape with an extra 50 pounds. Like, if I put at 39 years old now, if I put on a 50-pound weight vest and walked around every day and tried to do what I normally do, it would be difficult to, get back in that rhythm and routine. So it's cool that you recognize where you were at and decided like now is time to really set myself up for the next, for the rest of my life, really, right? Like,
Yeah. And I remember when I was a kid, I could see my parents, like they struggled, with their weight and their fitness, and I remember, from about up, probably about the time I was 12, when I was like kind of old enough to pay attention, you could just see like, they would diet, they would exercise, they would get back in shape, and then it would kind of fall off. And it was just kind of this cycle that they would get into. And I know it was always a challenge for them. And, it must have like made an impression for me. And I kind of see this similar thing happening to myself. I was like, maybe let's get out ahead of that.
yeah, and you kind of don't believe it's going to be you when you're in your 20s, right? You just like, oh, I won't let that happen.
Yeah.
But you have no idea what life is like late 30s, early 40s. You have no idea what it's like when your number one priority is paying your mortgage and making sure your kids are okay compared to
Right.
what you eat that day and if you've worked out, right? Like, it becomes such a low priority on the list of things you've got to get done. So it's interesting when the older you get into these next phases and you start to realize that it's not as simple as you thought it was when you were in your 20s. Like, you don't realize why you've always got lights on and water in the house, and you know what I mean? Like, you
Yeah.
just think them things appear from nowhere. And to realize that, dad's really working 12 hours a day or mom's really working 12 hours a day
Yeah.
and then doing all this on top of that,
I
it
think,
can.
I mean, I
Go ahead.
think, what, when you're younger, you seem like you feel like you have so much time, your body bounces back faster from everything. And so,
Mhm.
it doesn't, you don't necessarily suffer the consequences, that bad. But as you get older, that certainly changes. But I think like on the positive side, like getting older, I think or at least in my case, like I became even more disciplined the older that I got. Like I kind of didn't have a choice. Like I have
Yeah.
a full-time job, I have a kid, I travel a lot for work, and I'm pretty type A to begin with, but like I can't get through the day without really having a plan and a routine and sticking to it. So that kind of commitment and discipline, it kind of applies to like almost everything that I do in my life. And it's just like it's kind of like the way that I operate. It's the only way I can like make sense of it and kind of maintain, my equilibrium,
Yeah. Well,
now.
I'm excited to talk to you because you're like a pretty much a year since starting the OX100.
Yeah.
I talked to a lot of people that have like just finished or, you know what I mean, different times on that journey. And to take you back to, say, the first 30 days, um, you've obviously been training for a year and then you jumped into the first 30 days. And to me, that's like the make or break time for most people, right? It's like, do you really want this? Or
Yeah.
is it just something that you said, right? And take me back to when you signed up and how that first phase of the Ox 100 went.
The first phase was probably honestly the easiest phase because it was just, it was a matter of kind of changing what I ate a little bit, maintaining that
Mhm.
consistency at the gym. But it wasn't all that strenuous. I mean, it was a little confusing because I had to be like, okay, I can no longer eat this. I have to eat more of this, and like that, just kind of getting out of the rut of my kind of the routine of the diet that I had before was a bit of a change. And at times like that felt really overwhelming, and I was like, how am
Mhm.
I supposed to do this? But like not, it was flexible and easy enough that it was okay. It was like
Yeah.
so that wasn't too bad, and it was kind of fun to be like, okay, this is new. Let's try this. Like I'm totally a creature of habit, and so like I would just was eating basically the same thing over and over again. So it was pretty fun to like let's try a new recipe. Let's, try, this kind of meat that I generally had stayed away from, or this, this other kind of food or way of preparing the food, or just like spacing out meals throughout the day. So it was kind of a fun challenge to
Yeah.
begin with. So that wasn't so bad. It was the second phase that I think really kicked my ass
Yeah.
because you had to be really purposeful.
The first 30 is like the buy-in, right? And
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's just like cut out sugar. For
yeah.
you, a big thing was like you didn't really eat any meat, right? It was
Hardly.
pretty
I
much
mean, I ate
fish.
chicken, but I
Yeah.
very, very, very little. Yeah,
Yeah. And then there was a big shift to like eating more meat and
yeah.
eating more protein. And like you didn't really know how to count protein at that point. It was just
Okay,
eat more of it. And you're
sure.
like, all right. And in that first 30 days, we saw a lot of changes already.
Pretty dramatic.
Yeah. And what were the changes that you noticed right away?
Um, one, I had a lot more energy at the gym. I started to slim down, particularly like around my midsection, and I bulked up quite a bit
Hmm.
on top, like through my chest and shoulders and my upper back. And that was very noticeable within 3, definitely 4 weeks. Just
Hmm.
by like tracking those pictures, you could see like that was changing a lot. And I think, and that was like the best encouragement ever. Because I think the worst thing is like you make all these changes, you spend all this money, and then you're like, well, why the hell did I do that? I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Like actually being able to look at myself and be like, oh, I can see that was day 1. This is day 25. And I wasn't like, jacked or anything, but it was like, oh, it's like, it's doing what I want it to do, like
Yeah.
very like slowly, but there's clear progress. And that just makes it so much easier to stick with it too. When you see that, you're just like, okay, like let's just like this is working. Let's keep doing it.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is you like most people that I work with, um, you just it's not that you're overeating, you're mostly undereating the
Yeah,
wrong things, and slightly overeating some of the bad things, but not much, right? It's not a grand shift. It's not like you came to the end of that 30 days and I'd force you to starve yourself. It was, hey, that stuff, eat as much of it as you want. That stuff, just don't eat it.
yeah,
And to just make a change where it's like, there's no diet, there's no restriction. I haven't restricted anything. I've just said, choose the better quality food that for men turns on your testosterone again,
yeah,
like, and you went from like an upside down V shape to flipped it up the other way, right? So like broad shoulders, narrower hips, from narrower shoulders, broader hips, right? And it's amazing that you can eat more of something and less of something else. But at no point is it, hey, stop eating. You have to be on this. It's like I hate the word diet because
yeah,
it's not really like we're changing much. I'm just saying, Greg, eat more of this good stuff, more of the stuff that your body wants, right? Especially after you do these workouts, your body wants that. It doesn't want that. It needs that to be able to grow, and especially muscle tissue, right? Like we need that protein. So yeah, that first 30 days it's just awesome to know that our age, 39, and you're in your 40s, right? Like
42. Yeah,
42, it's 99.9% nutrition now. Like we come in here, but we can't outwork what we fuel with. And to see that is one of my favorite moments of the first 30 days for most of the people I work with. And then if you nail that, then it's kind of like I allow you to go to the next phase, because if we used to do this where phase 2 was where you started, right? And like, can you imagine starting, which most like nutrition or health programs start you with counting macros and doing all this stuff right out the gate? It just seems too much to me, right? Like, I feel like you need that build in to get these habits to then layer extra habits on. And like you said, the next phase is kind of overwhelming at first, but you adapted to it really well.
yeah. I mean, I think the introducing counting the macros and also the intermittent fasting. Um, you just had to be that much more purposeful about
Mhm.
everything, which kind of appeals to my very type A personality. Like once I kind of like wrapped my head around what I needed to do, it was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is like in some ways this is like a game or like a challenge to try to figure out this puzzle, how to make it work. I mean, some of those mornings, like because I usually work out, at a 6 or 7 a.m. class, I wouldn't eat until from 8 p.m. the night before until noon, the
Mhm.
next day. Like some those mornings were pretty rough. at first. And by the time, whatever time it was, like, noon or 1 o'clock, I mean,
Mhm.
I was ravenous. Uh,
Yeah.
and so that was tricky, but it also, like, reinforcing like that pattern and that discipline, kind of, it worked for me and for my personality and kind of the goals that I wanted to see. I think one of the things that was, like, very counterintuitive for me about the process is, like, I don't think I lost a single pound throughout the whole program, but my body changed dramatically. And I think, like, when you're talking about it being a diet, like, I think there's always things like, oh, like, I'm going to change what I eat. I'm going to, like, I'm going to go on a diet so that I can lose weight. And, like, every time I got on the scale, it was like, it just held solid.
Hmm.
It was like, I lost a lot of fat on my belly, like around, like, my love handles, and my, even like around my thighs and stuff like that. So, like, everything just kind of, like, the weight just, like, redistributed, and kind of, my body changed in such visible ways. I was like, okay, I guess, like, that number maybe doesn't mean anything. But at first I was like, what the fuck? I'm doing all this work
Yeah,
and
yeah, right. Yeah, and we like you said, I can't remember what weight you even came in at because like for somebody like you, the way your goals were set, it wasn't about losing a bunch of weight. It was
yeah,
about recomping your body, right? Like taking all that weight from, like you said, your love handles and your stomach and making it broader shoulders, bigger arms, you
yeah,
know. And one of my favorite things from your journey and your story is just you being a dad and you setting an example for your son who also works out here. And yeah, I mean, how did he react to you? Because, like you said, you didn't lose any weight,
yeah.
but he noticed
He did.
complete different changes in your body that you probably like kind of noticed and like were enjoying, but to hear it from your son was special, right?
Yeah, I mean, we'd be sitting down at breakfast, and, like, he would, like, look at my arm, and he's like, "Dad, your arm's getting really, really big." And, it was, like, a little bit embarrassing to be, like, kind of that being pointed out in such a direct way. But I think, he would also, like, see the changes that I'd made in my diet, and he's like, why are you doing this?"
Mhm.
This, like, and he's kind of, "This is funny. Like, I don't know why you're eating that." And you're like, "How come you're not having, ice cream with me anymore?" Whatever it was, like, the fun things that we would do together. But then he also started to notice that, like, I was, that my body was changing, in a really positive way that I wanted to go. And then he started getting curious about working out at the gym. He's 11 now. He was, 9 or 10 at the time when I started. And so, I think just, like, the idea of, like, moving around, and he's not a kid who loves, like, team sports. He's not the most coordinated athlete, but he's really determined and really strong.
Mhm.
And so, like, working out at the gym just totally appealed to him. And it was fun. Like, sometimes we would do the same workout, and we would, like, get really competitive with each other about, like, how many reps or how much weight we were doing. And then, it was just like, it was a good way for us to bond, and also for him to start developing, like, some good habits
Yeah.
that I wish I had developed sooner. And we'll
Right.
see how it goes over the years. But I think at least just, like, him understanding, like, one, this is fun to do this, and it actually has really positive benefits for you. Like, and he like, have to, like, kind of nudge him to go to the gym sometimes. They're like, "Well, I'm gonna go. You should, come with me." And he, like, "Oh, yeah, 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 yeah." And then he goes, and then he has a great time, and like, just feels really proud of himself at
Yeah.
the end of it for finishing the workout. And, like, some of the adults in the class will encourage him, and they'll be really impressed. And he just, like, gets such a lift
Yeah.
from
And
all
then
of it.
he even did Decker and absolutely crushed it
He
too.
did.
Like
He's
one
done
of
it
our
twice.
events, he
Yeah,
did it twice.
he loves it. He loves it. I
Yeah.
mean, he's not a super competitive kid, but I think he's competitive with himself. And
Yeah.
so it was a great way for him, especially having done it twice, to, improve his time. The
Mhm.
second one, just finishing the first time
Yeah.
was
Right.
amazing. And then to do better, what was it, 6 months later or something like that. He was so proud of himself.
Yeah. And just to teach him like it's okay to just want to be strong, right? Like that's what are you training for? I'm training to be stronger for you, right? To be, just healthier and show you that you might have to make some changes like not always eating the ice cream or not always, you know what I mean? And then when he sees you, and I think you told me you were going to maybe going to a pool or something like that. And he was like, Dad, you got a six pack.
He did say that. He did say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. that was that was kind of hilarious when he pointed that out.
Yeah.
Made me a little bashful,
Yeah. Yeah.
but also very proud of myself at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I mean, like the thing that I titled this podcast was like from an artist to an athlete in 100 days. Right. And like you as a photographer and, like in your career, that's not the thing that most people in your industry are aiming for is like a six pack, right? Like it's not but just to see like dad's doing all this stuff, he's working hard, he's
Yeah.
sacrificing, and he's getting results from it. And like he said, like you look like an athlete, like
Yeah.
it's awesome. And that's the key is like you are an athlete now, and then that's just like the aesthetic things, right? They're cool. Like it's nice to have that. Um, but in terms of your performance, actually, as an athlete, is the thing that is next level for you, right? Like when you started this thing, um, you could maybe do a couple of pull ups, right? Like,
I had struggled with a couple of pull-ups.
yeah, like you could do a couple. You could get your chin over the bar
Yeah.
a couple of times. And you could kind of get some toes to bar if it was a good day, if the wind was blowing the right direction and like everything came together.
True.
And then at the end of that 100 days, when we got to the end of phase 3, and I think it was like, it didn't line up perfectly with like retest weeks and stuff like that. And you were just like, your results were just incredible in terms of that stuff. And yeah, talk a bit about that. Like, didn't you get a muscle up?
I did get a muscle up. That
Yeah.
I haven't done one since, unfortunately, but I did I did get a muscle up, and that was pretty incredible because, like you said, like I could do a pull up. I really struggled with the like the kipping motion and just like the strength to get myself
Mm-hmm.
over the bar. But then I took some of the extra skills workshops, which helped a lot just to kind of like flip some mental switches about how the movements work. And I would say after 3 months, like I was doing 7 to 10 unbroken kipping pull-ups, um, toes to bar pretty consistently. Again, seven to 10 of those, unbroken.
Yeah.
Whereas like I was kind of doing the double swing flaily, hope that I, can get my feet up in the air and not fall off this bar, toes to bar movement before. So that, I mean, just seeing myself be able to do those things that when I walked into the gym for the first time, I was like, yeah, that'll be nice someday.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get there. And then it started happening, and it was slowly. And then like all at once, like things just started clicking. And it was definitely a combination of, I understood the technique better, but the big part of it is like, I was way stronger than
Mhm.
I had been. And so it made, I mean, none of it's ever easy, but it was like, oh, this is totally possible.
Yeah.
And one day, like I saw, one of the guys who I usually work out with, he did a muscle up, and I was like, if he can do it, I think I can do it too. Like, and then I just kind of like tried it, flailed around once, tried it again, got up, and it was kind of like magic
Yeah.
how it
It
all
was
happened.
amazing. Yeah. From a couple of pull ups to get a muscle up. And then to look, today, like a year later, you've kept quite a lot of these habits, right? Is
Yeah.
the thing that I want everyone to get to when they get to that 100 days is I would love to keep working with you, right? Like I want to set next goals. I want to keep going, but I also want to make it to a point where you have the autonomy to choose which things you want to take with you forever, right?
Yeah.
And like how to eat, how much protein to eat. If I can just do that, shit, like that's a big deal, especially for most men are under eating so much protein. Um, and so like a year later, we're looking at your results, and I've got your summer scorecard here. And over the 8 weeks in this summer, so like a year later, you were up at 23 pull-ups. And then even in that 8 week cycle, you went from 23 to 27, right? So like you're at 27 kipping pull-ups. Just that alone is like a year later, you're doing sets of 27
Yeah.
unbroken from one or two, like not really. And like you've seen improvement pretty much every quarter because of the habits that you established in the 100 days, right? It was like coming to the gym and it was like a slow incline, like you're getting a little fitter. And then 100 days we jumped up, and then we've kept that same trajectory
Yeah.
for 12 months now, which to me is what it's why I do it, right? Is just seeing the improvement and the results that come from you choosing which habits are going to make you better every day. So, yeah, talk to me about how you've, because I mean, I imagine you've had some ups and downs with how good you've been on
Yeah.
sticking to your habits, but which ones have stayed with you for a year now?
So the two biggest things are just the routine and consistency of going to the gym. So I try to get up. I get up at 5 or 6 every morning. I try to work out before work and before I have to take my son to school,
Mhm.
and that's a pretty great way to start the day.
Yeah.
So and I go
Because you were kind of all over the place with when
all
you
over the
work out,
place.
right?
Sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon. There would be stretches where I wouldn't even go, but now it's like I get up. This is what I do.
Yeah.
And
And that's huge, right? Like we can't look past that. Like that's a big deal because chances of you coming back at 5 or 6 o'clock with a full-time job and like meetings and emails and you know the weather's nice, so maybe some of it, just all kinds of things that could
yeah,
pull you away, knowing that your routine to be the best version of yourself is you got to get up and work out.
yeah.
Like it's a huge change to your mentality.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing, a part of that routine was, like part of the program, which we didn't really talk about, was like finding some quiet time just to kind of like center yourself. And I don't do that every morning, but I would say 3, 4 days a week. Like I get up early and I just sit and read for half an hour. And it's like very calming and centering. And it just like kind of chills out my mind, which, for the just like the mental health benefits of it all are a big deal.
Yeah.
So that's another nice habit that I formed. But then really just like the way that I eat, and I've adjusted some of the macros a little bit, but really tried to like maintain the amount of protein that I get, and that staying consistent there, and also just like cutting out like just the junk. Like I used
Yeah.
to, eat a whole bunch of stuff that was just like packed with sugar, and I don't do that much anymore. I mean, I allow myself, like a feast day once a week, which is kind of a nice way to, blow off a little bit of that like appetite steam that builds up from being, pretty focused, and
Yeah,
I want to say
and to
strict.
be sociable or like
Yeah.
treat your son or something like that,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
So
you're not a monk,
that
right? You
yeah,
just
no, no,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. I mean, it gets challenging because like I travel a fair bit. The both the eating and the working out are hard. But I've also, when I travel for work, I try to find a hotel that has, a gym of some kind,
mhm,
and get up early and go do that, or look up what are some body weight workouts that I can do with, if I have 20 minutes, just so like I'm moving, and it's not like I'm not gaining a lot in those, but at least I'm not losing as
yeah,
much from being away for a few days, and just making sure that that's part of the routine, that's part of the habit, and that it's not something that it's just like you just after a while you just do it. It's
mhm,
like you don't think about it. You most of the time don't make excuses. I mean, I'm not perfect on this. Like I definitely like there are mornings, especially when I'm on the road, I'm just like I just can't right now. Um, but sometimes having a rest day is also worthwhile. But
yeah,
just like kind of knowing like this is the norm to be
mhm,
doing those things. It just makes it so much easier. And like it feels so much better knowing that like you're kind of sticking to a plan and working towards something.
yeah. So working out every morning, quiet time, as much as you can just to set yourself up in the right way for the day. Um, you try and hit your protein goal
Yeah.
most days if you can, and then kind of like making it so you have one day a week where you're not really worried about what you're eating, so you're not obsessing over it, and you're not also like what happens to most people is they say I eat pretty good, right? When I ask everybody, they eat pretty good, and that means that they don't know and they kind of don't eat pretty good. They just eat whatever.
Yeah.
They have the majority of people have 3 good days a week, Monday to Wednesday, right? Because they've either meal prepped or they did something where like they've got 3 good days of food in the house. And then by Thursday, they're so tired that that's when the weekend starts. It goes through Sunday. So it's 3 good days, 4 bad days every week. And that adds up to what we see. Like most people, 20 to 30 pounds overweight, because, like you said, on the road or randomly making it up from a restaurant is not easy.
Yeah.
It's really not, because to find the right thing to eat without any preparation, it's really hard, right? I'm
It
just
sure
trying to,
is.
yeah. And so you to know this and say, okay, 1 day a week, if you know you've got something coming up this week on a Friday, you can be like, that's my day. If you got something coming up, even if it's on a Wednesday, you could be like, that's my day, but I got to eat good on the weekend this week. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And it's just one of the key habits for me is like, you don't have to just completely cut yourself off from everybody and everything. It's like, choose the day that week when it's your day to just have fun. You don't want to always be the person that's like, "Oh, I'm following this diet. I can't do that." Right? Like, and so yeah, it's cool that you've established them habits, like you said, you're not perfect. And my goal for the program is never to expect somebody to be perfect. It's to make something sustainable that fits your life, that makes you, like you said, just feel better.
Yeah.
Like you were probably operating before you started this at like 40%, 30, 40%. Like you were good at most things. You were getting fitter. You were doing good. But like we up that to like 80, 90, even 100% at some points there.
Yeah.
And you've maintained that consistent level, which is really, really cool. The last thing I want to ask is if you could go back to before you did this, either right before you did it, right before you decided to do it, or when you first joined the gym and like you knew about it, what would you have told yourself? What would you tell yourself now, knowing what changed over the last year, but also 100 days?
Oh, then it's totally worth it, and you can do it. I think when I started, it seemed kind of intimidating, and I was like, I think I need to ease into this a little bit more, get a feel for how this all works. And I still don't think that that was necessarily a bad
Mhm,
decision. But I think, going into it, just like knowing like it's not going to be as hard as you think, and the parts that are going to be hard are going to be worth the result on on the other end. And just like being able to like knowing that like okay, you're gonna kind of like upend a lot of things that you do just out of habit, but create new habits that are better and just as easy to maintain as the bad habits that you had before. I think
mhm.
it's just like knowing like you like it's not as scary as you think it might be. It's probably
That's
like
cool.
the thing that I would say because there were moments like especially like every time some part of the program changed or the macros changed and I was like, well, I thought I'd figured this out, and now I had to
Yeah.
go back and like reevaluate things. I would get so overwhelmed and frustrated, and then a day would go by. I was like, well, that was that wasn't too difficult actually.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And like you said, knowing that it's not as hard as you think, knowing that you can do it,
Yeah,
if you would have, say, a year earlier done it, you'd be 2 years further along, right? So it's just like these habits compound over each other. So the sooner you start, the faster you start to see the progress. And so while waiting a year to get comfortable with the gym and all that stuff sounds like a good idea, the quicker you can get started on this, you just accelerate your
yeah,
progress, And like I tell people all the time, like if you have a big goal or you have something coming up that you're aiming for, like you just gotta get a coach that holds you accountable to the things that you really want to do. You just need that you just need to report it to somebody, you
it's
know?
what's funny is that I think what actually kind of really got me headed down this path was I think y'all did like a 12 days of Christmas challenge. It's like come to the gym every day for 12 days
Mhm.
straight. I was like, it seems kind of silly, but I was like, let's give that a shot. And at the end of the 12 days, I was like, that really was not that hard to come to the gym every day for 12 days. And that's what kind of like was like the switch that kind of that like set me down like, oh, I can do this. Like I can be here more. I can I can work harder while I'm here. I can come early in the morning. I don't have to like wait until like the afternoon and maybe blow it off
That's
at the end of
cool.
the day. And then it was just like seeing like if I got that much better only by doing this, what if I do this other thing that's
Mhm.
really gonna bump it up? So it was just like that tiny little nudge was
Yeah.
really what
And then now in a couple of months, we're doing a competition. We got all kinds of things coming
Oh,
up.
yeah. Yeah, we'll see. That'll be a fun one. We'll really put this all to the test.
Yeah. So like a year ago, would you have even seen yourself signing up for a competition,
Oh, hell no.
CrossFit style competition? Or yeah,
No way.
that's
No way.
cool.
So, yeah, so now I've done, I did DECA once. I participated in the liftoff, and now the
Yeah.
beach crawl's coming up. So, I don't know. We'll see what you've got up your sleeve next on this one.
Yeah, I almost got you on High Rocks, but luckily for you, you're out of town. So
Yeah, well, maybe next year.
love it. All right. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for your commitment to the program. It's been awesome to see your results. And yeah, like I'm so proud that you still have these habits that, you know, so many programs is like you said, it's like a crash diet and then you disappear, or it's like you lose 20 pounds and you gain it back. You know what I mean? And like to see you just consistently improving
Yeah.
based on building that foundation with the OX100 has been awesome. So
Yeah,
thank
well,
you.
thank you for all your support.
I appreciate you, mate. Thank you for listening, everybody, and we'll see you on the next episode.